Okay, now we went over the pronunciation of the 28 letters. Okay, now we're going to go over how the letters change in shape depending on where they are in a word. So the letters that you learned before, they were the letters standing alone by themselves. But if the letter is written in the beginning or the middle or the end of a word, okay, most of the time the shapes of the letters change. Okay, that's something that you have to get used to. Okay, so if you look at the here, we're going to take four different groups, okay, if you will, of letters. Okay, so the first one is the alif, and this is the alif here. Okay, and you have three words here. Okay, these words do not necessarily mean anything. Okay, it just put them together so you can see how they change from the beginning, middle, or the ending of a word. So the alif standing alone by itself. Okay, and the alif here as the first letter of this word up, it actually means father. Okay, so if you have a letter following the alif or after the alif, okay, we do not connect them. So there's a separation between this letter, and we'll go over in a later episode the six disconnected letters. So there are six letters amongst the 28 letters that are disconnected from any letter following them. So they're separate, and we'll go over that, right? So, well, the alif is one of those letters, and also these four letters here are the other four. So that makes five, and there's one more which is a vowel. So those letters, we call them the six disconnected letters, and we'll go over that. We'll have an episode just for that. So the alif here, as the first letter, okay, is written the same. There's no difference here, but it's not connected to this ba. Because if you connected the alif to the ba, it would actually look like a lam. Okay. Here's another example of the alif, but in the middle of a word. So you have this ba here, and then this ba is connected to the alif, and then there's a separation because it's one of those six disconnected letters. And here is the alif. It comes back again, but as the last letter of the word. So alif can be connected to a letter preceding it, but not after it, not following it. Okay, so in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. No difference in the shape here. The alif stays the same. There's no difference in the personality of the alif. Okay. The next example are these three letters here: the ba, ta, and tha. Okay, in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. So if you see here in the beginning, it doesn't really lose. We would call this a tail. Okay, it doesn't really lose it. It's connected to any letter following it. Okay, but and the dot is put directly beneath it. Okay, if it's a ta or a tha, I'll show you how you would write that. Let's say, for example, you want to write. Let's see here. So if this is a ta or tha, we would write the two dots here, and the three dots would be written like that, instead of in the middle here as a standalone letter. Okay, and this is in the middle. So in the middle, I would write it like this. So let's say this is a meme, and let's say this is a ta, and then you want to write a lam, so that the two dots will be written like that, or the third dot would be written like that. And in the end, okay, let's say, for example, you have a scene, and then you want to write a ta, comes back to the original shape, and the dots are in its original place, which is directly in the center, or if it's three dots of tha, it'll be written like that. Okay, so that's an example of ba, ta, and tha in the beginning, in the middle, or between two other letters, N at the end by itself. Okay. The other group of letters is the Jim, Ha, and the Kha. Same as these three here. Okay. There's no difference here, only the dot. Jim, Ha, or Kha as the first letter, so it loses this tail. Instead of coming down and around to the right, it actually goes across to the next letter, and you connect it to the following letter. So here, this is the Ha as the first letter. Okay, this is the Ha in the middle between the Sin and the Ba. So again, this tail, instead of coming down and around, it went to write the next letter. And this is the C, this is the Ha at the end. So the tail comes back at the end. Okay, and in the middle, if it was a Jim or Kha, the only difference would be the dot. So let's say, for example, in the middle, I want to write a Ba. Okay, I'm sorry, let me get, to make it more consistent, get the color blue. So let's say, for example, I want to write a Ba, and then I want to write a Jim. So I would do like this, come across. Let's say, for example, another Ba, I will put the dot right here. Here there's no dot because it's a Ha. And if it was a Kha, I would just write a dot on top. Okay. And the last group is the Del, Del, Ra, and Zay. Okay, so these are 4 of those 6 disconnected letters I spoke about. Alif is one of them. Dal, Del, Ra, Zay are the other 4, and there's one more, which is the Waw. Okay, which means these letters, actually, you cannot connect them to a letter following them because it would change the complete form or shape of the letter. Okay, this is the Del, or the Ra, Zay, or Zay. For example, in the beginning is the first word. It's not connected to the Ra. This is the Del in the middle between the Ba and the Ta. Again, it's not connected to the Ta here. And here is the Del, okay, Del, Ra, or Zay at the end. So let's say, for example, let's say what would happen if you wanted to connect these letters to a letter following them. Look and see how they would change. Let's say, for example, there's a Del, and I want to connect it to a Ba. I come here, and I do like this to make a Ba. That's no longer a Del anymore. It's almost like another Ba, or Ta, or Tha. Same thing with Ra. If I wanted to connect it to a letter following, let's say, for example, this is a Ba, and I connect it to a Ra, and then I want to connect it, this is a Ra, to another letter. Let's say, for example, Alam. Okay, this no longer becomes a Ra. It changes the complete shape. And that's the reason why these letters, okay, these 4 letters, in addition to the Alif and the Waw, are not disconnected. They are disconnected to any letter following them. Okay, so there you have it. And see you in the next episode for the next letters.